Okay, let's move on to our next principal's report. Pam, you're up.
I would like to direct your attention to the memo that Art and I submitted to Dr. Skinkus on summer school programs. And so the front of that memo had what are credit and non-credit courses, what people mostly think of as summer school or summer workshops. So we identified for you what the course cost, how many students were in the course. When we're making decisions on what to run and not to run, there's a deadline by which we needed a threshold of so many students to be able to cover the cost of the salary and the room usage, the building usage fee that we had assessed. And just as a reminder, Joel Hatchie helped us with that. Our, building and facilities director, he gave us costs of different rooms per day, per hour and per day, so we could break down how many days the class was going to be in there and what facilities they were using in order to determine that building use fee. If there isn't a building use fee, it's probably because it's an at-risk group of learners that we made the decision that we were going to make the classes affordable for them, for instance with credit recovery or the summer bridge program where we were identifying kids and trying to help them in the transition. So there are, or the parade, the 4th of July parade, when it's a community service activity kids are involved with. So we try to keep those minimal. So you can see where those numbers came out, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't running, that we were cost neutral, we were not running at a deficit, so it wasn't costing us to offer these programs. And we did, thankfully, we had some people that made donations to help offset the music sponsors. You could see the Village of Brookfield, Village of Riverside. There were some funds, some grants from the RBEF to offset costs for kids to be involved in the workshop program. Because when we advertised that at WeRRB and at some different events, we said it was a free program, and then we ended up needing to offset the cost of that to pay for the facility usage. There is no salary amount for that because that's at the time Gary Probst is already here in the building, so to make it affordable for the students. So we're trying to still make these opportunities reasonable and affordable. So does anybody have any questions on the front side with the
we had a couple from the board, so just to do some clarification. One of the reasons you're getting this report now is, as I told you last week, we wanted to start to align our board operational calendar sequential. So these are reports that after we finish the summer school and summer camps, the board had given us a directive that it wanted to be cost neutral as well as to cover any costs related to facility usage above and beyond of what would be our traditional costs. So the two reports you're seeing are just showing that we met the board directive. The second thing is that really, with the exception of approving the personnel people to work these camps and these courses, there's not any, we're not varying away from the district curriculum where we would need approval on the curriculum guide or classes offered or anything like that. Those are just more or less management decisions if we have enough failures or students needing credit recovery. So we shifted this so that in the springtime, all you'll see is the recommendations on personnel to cover these summer camps as well as to cover the summer school. And then what I'd like to do in the fall is continue to show you what courses ran and then if they were cost neutral to the district. Now, there was a question presented by a board member regarding the profit, which is probably a better term would probably be surplus. But we talked about that today, me, Pam, and Tim. But the deal with that is that when Pam was in the process of establishing what she needed to do to break even, we were using a minimum student count at a minimum student fee. So I think for most it was 17 or 18 kids at 200 or 225. So Fine Arts Survey and Health had 30 kids, so that's where the additional surplus came from. There's no way to then go back and refund everybody, nor can you guarantee that many kids are going to sign up. So you kind of try to keep it at a steady point to make sure we're breaking even, and then if additional students sign up, it makes some surplus revenue. The thing that Pam and I talked about today, seeing this now and knowing what kind of flexibility we have and what the remaining cost neutral, you're going to see later in Pam and Kristen's presentation, but we have an idea of where we can use some of that additional surplus to help offset, but maybe have in English and math credit recovery running every summer, so those students that fail a core class aren't taking it somewhere else or aren't taking it online and are working with our teachers to fill the void of where they were deficient in skill level, so that when maybe if they're failing freshman algebra, they can take credit recovery math with a math teacher in the summer and then be ready to take geometry their sophomore year. And Pam and Kristen can touch on that a little later. But I wanted to explain why you were seeing this report and how it kind of fit into the operational calendar.
Kevin, I have two questions.
Sure.
On the credit recovery, the revenue is less. Is it because these students are on a reduced price?
It's on the bottom. There were 5 students that were free. So we didn't
Okay.
charge free and reduced lunch students.
Okay. So then, the second question is, if we set it up as cost neutral, that would be different than saying we don't want to lose money, but if there was ever any surplus, we could use that surplus to provide other services. So does the board have to?
Right, that's what we just were saying.
I know that's what you were saying, but should we as a board give that directive to say, don't limit yourself, or don't, you talked about refunding money to be cost neutral, but maybe the directive should be, we can't lose any money, but if there is any surplus, then we could use that money to expand our programs.
Right, to Pam and Kristen are going to fill that in a little later, but that was what we were going to say, is that maybe in the future, if we have additional money, we know we should always, we would like to propose to the board that maybe we hire an English and a math teacher, and any student from freshman through, 9th through 11th grade that's failing or struggling in a course can take credit recovery, math or English in the summer. Possibly at no additional cost or guarantee that we have that math and English there. We have to still run through some additional.
We did offer those courses, but not enough students signed up, so we canceled them. And then we have to cancel them too early because we had to hire the personnel before. And so what we would like to do is if we had maybe 6 or 7, then what happens is the kids' grades come in, school's done, but the course isn't there anymore because we canceled it a month earlier because we only had 6. We didn't have the threshold of 17 kids to run the class. But if we know now that we could have that leeway, we'd like to offer it, have the teacher make sure that class is here. Because when we go back to those 6 kids, or now there could be 17 or 20 who need it after the grades come in at the end of the year, and we tell them you'll have to take it at a different nearby school, you have to go to LT, or you have to take it at St. Joe's, we found they haven't been doing it. They haven't been going and taking it, but we believe they would take it if it were here. So it's a timing issue. We canceled the class too early. So that would be nice to know that, if we could do what Kevin's asking, that would be a great intervention that we could put in place.
Tim,
for our
I have a
kids.
question for you. I see in the budget expenditure, summer school, $63,000. How does that reconcile to the 25 that's showing there?
Where's the 63,000? I'm sorry.
In the education fund, summer school? That was my pet peeve last year.
It might be extended school year with special ed is not on here.
Right, I did not include the ESOY because we can't charge that. That's IEP money, or it's required for federal. Because I think that would have shown that we were not cost neutral.
Right.
So what I'm showing is anything that, so I understand the point you're showing is that technically we're not cost neutral because this 10,000 can go and offset the cost.
So we have a federal mandate program we're
Yes.
providing in the summer that we're not getting reimbursed by the federal government.
We get some reimbursement through the state, but not from the federal government, yeah. That's part of those special education reimbursements.
But it doesn't cover the whole expense.
Oh, no, not even close.
Okay.
Any other questions for Pam on this, summer school?
So the way I understand it, what Kevin and Pam are saying is, when you present this in the spring, you're going to remind us that you want to have some flexibility. And I presume when you talk about the performance, you're going to talk about how these not offering this type of support for the students who need it probably have an impact on our results, I presume, right?
Yes.
So we'll tie that together.
So that federal mandate program is costing us $40,000 in the summer? 30,
Yeah.
Teacher and
37?
several teachers and aides.
Teachers and aides.
Teachers and aides. And it runs longer. It runs longer than a summer school, regular summer school program
Right.
throughout the summer, so.
How about this, Tim, you could do, just put together, make a note, short email on our summer school cost breakdown, and then I could send it out in a Friday update. Should anybody want the detailed breakdown.
So I don't understand, if we have a federal mandate to offer a program that's going to run in the deficit, why wouldn't we strive then in our summer school offerings to have extra, a margin, so that we could offset the deficit?
We were just answering a question from a board member. That wasn't, the directive was definitely to try to make sure it would break even. And a board member submitted a question that said, well, shouldn't we be trying just to break even, not make the $10,000? But I don't think the chart shows the full story, because the ESY would show we can't really break even because there's a federal program.
Yeah, am I right, the ESY is not really considered as, like these, a summer school program, it's a year-round program, all right, Tim?
It's a, it's not a program we have a choice in. I mean, you have to.
But you have to offer it, that's almost like a full year,
Yeah.
year-round. Okay. Any other questions?
So Laura, to answer your question, I would think if the board's comfortable with seeing that what we're doing, I don't think we should really change much, except possibly offer a little more flexibility with math and English for the summer.
Well, and what I'm curious is, if we had more courses, would we get more students come to summer school, more science courses, and then there might be a little greater margin that could be applied towards some of the courses we're mandated to offer. But it seems to me we are limiting what we do in summer school.
Well, where it becomes tough, and this is what Pam was saying, is that you have to be able to present opportunities. So we present postings to the staff of who wants to work summer school. So we get people to sign up. And then as we get towards the end of the school year, if we see that we're not close to that threshold, so what we figured out was there was about 17 to 18 kids per class at $225 to $200 a class to break even with the contractual summer school stipend and the building usage fee. So like Pam was saying, we'd have, by the end of May, when it was getting close to the end of school year, we had identified maybe 6 or 8 students that were for sure failures in math. So it was 10 kids short of what the threshold needed to be to recommend running it. So we decided not to run it. Then after report cards came out and kids took their finals, but those results don't get compiled till June when the kids are already gone, maybe 15 more kids failed math, and we would have had enough to run the course.
But
So
that wasn't my question.
So what we're saying, though, is we want to have a little more flexibility in establishing it so we can run more classes.
Right, but that kind of augments my original question. So you're talking about running more classes that are necessary for credit recovery. I was asking, why couldn't we offer more classes where a student could take a course that maybe they could never fit into their schedule in addition?
We were talking about that Leadership Council this week, that years ago there was a really robust summer program here, and I don't know over the years how it, where it went or what happened with that. But yeah, I would like to offer more opportunities for students, if not even options of what we have in our curriculum, but also, like I think you mentioned, summer science research programs or some kinds of different enrichment programs as well. There just hasn't been that history. So we're discussing that as a leadership council with the department chairs of what would we want to offer for students to do in the summer.
I think one thing, too, you have to be careful of with your summer school curriculum is that, we have 2 18-week semesters. So most of the time what you offer in summer school are semester courses or one semester of a class, because you don't want students trying to take an entire year of math in 3.5 weeks, 4 hours a day. At the same, because I've never, in my 14 years of experience, I've never seen to where an 18-week course can be combined into 3 weeks, 4 hours a day, and it's getting the same impact of what you would get in a traditional school year or school semester. So you want to make sure that we're not some of the electives or maybe semester courses, but you want to make sure you're not also jeopardizing the integrity of our academic program.
It certainly could be a place, though, for some of our electives and fine arts.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would agree.
And that could even increase the margin, which would help offset some of the things we're mandated to do.
We did, like, my first year I was here, we offered a ceramics class, and then the next summer it didn't run, there weren't enough kids, but we have offered those kinds of opportunities, just not all that many, so it's something to consider and to see if they would run. There just hasn't been a history the last few years of students wanting to sign up or take advantage of those, so.
So I wonder, and with, you know, the last one, the school kind of closed down during the renovation because the summer months were the period of time when most of the work was done. And that ran over 3 summers.
Could be. Could be.
Okay, any other questions?
I think there were 1 or 2 on the athletic camps.
She didn't, she only told us she was done with page 1 so far.
Okay, so
So
We're waiting for
page 2?
page 2.
Page 2 is, just shows you that the camps were cost neutral. It doesn't give as much information because it gets a little bit more complex to describe participation numbers because students end up having a lot more flexibility with the way they run sports camps and whether they're there for the full day or partial programs. They allow some students to not even take a full session. So those numbers, you know, were not included for that reason, but certainly we have those numbers. That's how the money was calculated, but it looked a little bit odd, but 826 students did participate in the summer programs. So I don't know what the questions were. I don't have them in front of me. Yeah.
The biggest concern was that, why it wasn't broken down like the teachers. I think Pam kind of explained that the numbers of participants, some kids came for half days, some kids came for full sessions. The second thing was that these are to be cost neutral, more or less treated like a rental, in that they're not district funds. There's no summer school stipends or anything that go into camp base. It's kind of based on the number of participants that you get to sign up. So as you can see, like boys basketball, they had over like 320 participants or 330 participants through all their different sessions. So it fluctuates by the camp and the number of participants, and is how the salaries and different supplies and things are broken down. And then what we had a process in place was that we did not pay any of those things out until everything was closed out in the business office for any purchase orders or outstanding bills, because in the previous years we were paying out coaches and summer camp stipends before their supply budgets were paid off or before all their enrollment fees were collected. So we've kind of structured that now so that they just get a check at the end once their camp's completed and all their bills have been reconciled and fees have been reconciled.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'll be fast. If you could walk me through real quickly, I'll start off by saying the total money is the total revenue brought in. And then the salary, like for instance, girls golf camp, $225 includes a salary. That's
Yeah, the camps, what the coaches decide to do is, you know, there was a decision that it's a very small team, but they wanted to do this, they want to build the skills, they want to work with the girls, and they're willing to take less money to do it. So I think it just kind of speaks to the dedication of the coaches,
Sure.
that they're trying to give the opportunity, and they still have students interested, but they're not going to, they decided not to cancel the camp. And that's up to they didn't bring in much, so they didn't make much, but it still was a value to the coaches and the girls, and that's
so
why.
no camp was bound by stipend authority.
No, it's like,
Okay,
it's
good.
like more like a rental because
Right.
there's really no.
Well, I raised this question before. I would request, like Gary, I'd like to see the numbers to show what the labor and expenses are. And my concern is the same question I raised with Quest. On the courses, the board, the district takes the risk of the benefits and burdens, and we generated $10,000 more in revenue, almost 30% more than we charge. In this case, the coaches, and obviously in some cases, they are taking a risk because, you know, the 220, for some of the camps, girls golf and gymnastics, I can't imagine it was very much fee stipend to the coaches, but some of them, they're pretty big. So I just don't understand why we say it's different, and, if we run it the same way and we decide, that you have to cover the cost or whatever, you can't have it, and if you do, the benefits and burdens are taken by the district instead of the coaches.
Is there a reason why the district would want to get into that? If we're
No, but there's a reason the district should know of whether there was $10,000 or $20,000 generated here that could, if there was a reasonable stipend paid like we do with the summer school, that this district could have benefited from it. We don't know from these reports that we got. I don't understand why we don't want to, report that. Maybe maybe there's so many coaches in every case, the coaches all really kind of volunteered their time. I don't know from what gets reported to us.
Right.
There's something funny about this. The total 0, 0, that column, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry, I'm not getting it. This can't be right, because basically you're saying the marginal cost of like every camper is the same as the average cost if you're going to get a zero sum there.
Tim, why don't you elaborate a little bit?
Well, you can see the facility charge for the camps. We set up a charge that each of them had to pick up for the facilities, okay? They process, they put through requisitions, we process purchase orders to buy the supplies that they want. We make sure that all of those purchase orders, that the invoices come in and we pay those invoices. And then when we get to that point, we know that we've paid out all of the supplies, we've picked up the facility charge, and whatever the balance is, that's what the coaches get paid. So that's why everything is zero, because we only pay the coaches the money that's left after the facilities and the supplies, as you're talking about with girls golf.
So that's why.
So there's a set fee at the start, and who gets hurt here is the coach.
Yeah.
Right, it's up to the coaches to go out and recruit and make their camps and offer opportunities. Because remember, these camps are open not only to our B students, but not only district students, but anybody. The IHSA requires that it can be open to any student that wants to take your camp. So, that's why there's some like the basketball program, they run camps, when they have 300 participants, they'll run camps all day.
So how is the price then set for the?
That goes out in our summer camp guide, which the board saw in the spring.
But,
So it's not that it's like, it's staggered way off to where one camp could be 500 and one camp's, it's basically on the number of participants. The range of the camp fees are very consistent.
I just have a hard time believing with as many kids come for these camps that there wasn't a surplus in monies.
That's not how it's run.
It's not how it's run.
We're not, we made a conscious decision not to have it make money other than to cover the fees, to cover the facility. That's what we talked about, that we would just cover the facility costs. And as a person running it, in the past, what was happening was that they would submit expenses in for supplies independent of them taking salaries. So the cost to the district was more. Now the burden's put on the person running the camp to say, only after you cover the facility fee and after you cover your supplies do you get paid. Whatever the excess is, we're giving it to you to share to your team of whoever you want to work with you on a camp. In the past, it was, we're going to take this amount out of the revenues, you guys cover supplies, and we won't even concern ourselves about facility costs.
Should we be seeing what the salary amounts are, though, just so that it's transparent, that we say that nobody was given an unfair high amount or an unfair low amount?
Well, they will be different, because as you see, like with girls golf, that coach got, probably $200, not depending on supplies. Or boys basketball, each coach could have got $2,000. That's why it's kind of back on the coaches to how many participants they can get.
I'd just like to see the consensus of the board, if you can give us the data for this the same way you gave it to the classes, and then when we see it, we'll answer everybody's question.
Another column.
Right? Then we know.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean,
It's the philosophy of it. What we have done with this is, we have not hurt the district by doing this.
No.
This is almost like an intramural or extra activity, just like we do with gymnastics and the swim teams and anything else that are outside of the ISA, with our sports. And this is the way to handle it, where the district's costs are covered, and it's not costing us any money extra to do this stuff.
But it wouldn't be a big problem to put another column in there, that splits
Yeah,
out
I asked Art
salaries
about
and
that
stuff.
originally, and I said, well, he said because it would, the way of when you do the math, it's not gonna break down because some kids are half-day, some kids are full-day. So it's not, you wouldn't be able to look at this and say, hey, there was 100,000 generated, every coach should have got $1,000. It won't break out equally, so as long as
That's fair enough.
the board understands that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what are we asking them to do?
Just asking them to take the athletics and break the report down the same way they did with the courses, where it shows, breaks the labor, the salaries and expenses into a separate categories.
So we're asking the one column be separated into two, and that's it?
Right?
I'd like to add another column, which would be how much we charged.
Yeah, the
I'd
course
like
fee,
to-
We
like the-
approved that.
Yeah, no, but,
that was it.
right, but I like this philosophy. My point is, maybe we need to adjust the fee that's charged, so the coach doesn't get, the coach should get something for doing this. It shouldn't,
So if
I
you
want to be able to adjust the fees
Well, was
every
the-
year for each sport.
Was the fee put together with consultation of the athletic department,
Right.
knowing the level of
board saw-
participation that they would be?
And the board saw back in the spring, the program that was going out for the sports
We
camps.
saw the proposal.
See,
The issue is how many they recruited in
right, so that's why
to do this particular camp.
I mean, you can see just by these numbers, you can assume that one or two sports are gonna get significant higher salaries than majority. But if they had over 100 or 200 or 300 participants, I don't know if we would wanna get into the business of, hey, you're working really hard, let's lower your stipend because it's not equal with everybody else.
Well, all I'm asking for is the information.
Yeah, we want the data.
So,
I know that's what you were asking, John asked for another thing,
Well,
to say,
he's
well,
asked-
maybe we wanna prorate
here's-
stipends, I don't think we wanna get into summer
Well-
camp stipend.
Well, no, I'm not
They're not
saying that.
stipend. Don't use the word
But it's
stipend.
got to be what, my point is views from the coach, it's like, there's got to be some reasonable return on his time. If we have to adjust the fees for like girls golf higher, then maybe we should do that. So, but we can't make that determination here.
Well, that's gonna be self-excluding, though.
So salary and supplies, there should be split, is that all?
well, John asked a,
Then
I only
it's
want
gonna
one.
lead to the next question.
Yeah.
How many coaches
Yeah,
and
yeah.
participants
That's what I'm
there
saying.
were
I
to
don't-
see
I
an
don't know
average
if it's
It's
return?
going to be a full-blown audit.
Yes,
That's
I'm
what
not
I'm
afraid
hearing.
that would be, so.
Well,
there were $80,000 collected using our facilities. We've talked about so many things that I'm struggling why we're even debating it. John asked to ask the other two columns, number of students and the course fee, which are on the other schedule you put together. He said include all the columns, okay? So he asked for that. Gary's saying now, if you want, throw in the number of coaches that were there.
No, he's not saying to throw it
No,
in.
he didn't say that.
He's saying you could
He's
ask for
saying that
it.
when the schedule comes back, then you're going to go, well, if the 27,000 is really $25,000 of salary, it's going to lead to the next question, how many coaches got paid that?
And also your comment about, we did get our cost back from the facility. That's all we need to, on these camps, to get our cost back so that we are cost neutral. When they use this facility and the expenses involved with using this facility, that we got the monies back to cover it.
I would like to see the columns though, and because we want to be transparent. We've got 80,000 lines of data on the web, and it shouldn't be an issue. I think the same table is here. I am struggling when I look at the table to see that gymnastics, there's a facilities fee of $20. When those mats wear out, I guarantee you it's going to cost a lot more for $20 to replace that.
But the gymnastics camp is very much different than a gymnastics season.
We
The amount of
still
time-
have
Excuse me, the
people
amount of
using-
time used for the gymnastic camp compared to the amount of time used for the outside group that uses the gymnastics room and our own sports is totally different. So if you expect that gymnastics camp to pay for all of the mats, you're woefully wrong. That you have to look at the percentage usage from that, and I guarantee you the gymnastic camp compared to the outside group, and also who is paying money towards us, and the our gymnastic team for high school is very much different. So if you're trying to, see what happens when you overanalyze, you're going to be making these assumptions that are going to make an ass out of you and us together to be able to make that. So
Well,
what
that
I'm
is
saying-
your opinion, but when I look at a running club that's $70 when we're outside on the track compared, I would like to see numbers. Now, you can editorialize my questions, that's your opinion. But I also have opinion, and I'm concerned that some of the facility charges look low. And I'm also wondering why we've got to break even.
See, I
Just-
disagree with
just
you.
so
That comment,
I
oh,
think
wait,
what the-
excuse me, that comment right now is so wrong. Those facilities fees were charged based on what we gave as, our facility committee gave as charges for when you use this facility. Am I right?
Yes,
Tim? So those facilities are based on what we said, if you use our facility and you, whatever part of the facility you use, equipment, a person, room, or anything else that's charged with that. Am I right, Tim, or am I wrong?
To make this simple,
No,
not,
not
not,
No, he can't, you're not right.
What? So the facilities charges are not what we had?
listen, to make this simple, this information was all presented to the board in the spring. There was a $7 charge per camper from their cost of their camp fee. $5 went to facility, $2 went to pay to some additional money to have an athletic trainer on site so that all sporting camps can use it. So you roughly can get an idea of the amount of participants, because if you divide the facilities by $5 to $7, it should give you an
And
idea.
I think we agreed as a board that we don't want to get this to become a super revenue moneymaker for the district. What we wanted to do is to attempt to cover some of the variable costs associated with running these camps that the district's going to handle with the electricity, the air conditioning, what have you, and not to go and gouge all the campers. I think that's not what our goal was. Our goal was just to start recognizing, have these coaches recognize that there is a cost to the district, put it in, to get some fees in there. Tim, so you're going to break this out to have two additional columns, the salaries and supplies broken out. I think when we revisit this next, when do we do this? In February or March, we can discuss if we feel that these facility fees are enough, are big enough to warrant what we want to do with our goals.
John, and speak up, Dan.
And participant numbers. I mean, we could probably do the math, but basically you're mimicking the summer school.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize, yeah, and then you're going to have the number of participants in each of the
And the fee,
camps.
you
Right.
want the fee.
Separate salary, supplies, and number of students.
You didn't say that.
Yeah, and, yeah, just mimic the
Course fee, mimic the one above.
the one above. Just keep it simple.
Okay?
Any other questions on this?